you say 4 white dudes and Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, we're going to see some of this tape.
Good afternoon. No matter what your point of view may be, there is significant in the growth in Chicago and across the United States and not around the world. Of a movement known as
To me,
the
he looks
Black
like an ex-sheriff,
Muslims,
current
a movement
Klansman.
which is popularly believed to preach a
Hurlburt.
doctrine of hatred for the white race and the ultimate
Yeah.
supremacy of the Negro race. The headquarters of the Muslim movement is here in Chicago in the 5300 block of South Greenwood, and its leader now is known as Elijah Muhammad. He's in residence here. The most active person in the spreading of the Black Muslim movement is Elijah Muhammad's second in command, who calls himself Malcolm X. And Malcolm X is our guest today on City Desk. Across the desk, our panelists this week are NBC newsmen Charles McCune, Floyd Calver,
The Grand Wizard, and
another
Grand Wizard.
Grand Wizard, his assistant,
Assistant Grand Wizard, and Grand Wizard, or whatever.
Grandmaster Grand Wizard.
The Honorable Elijah stands upon is the
This
platform of
condenser
complete
mics.
freedom, justice, and equality for the 20 million black
It
people
didn't
or
Malcolm X have
so-called
a nice
Negroes here in
voice?
America.
Yeah,
It was a
Teaches us
booming, had
that,
great presence.
because of this, or blame the white
He
man
was-
for our predicament and constantly
blame white
beg
man.
him for what he has. He says that the only way
See,
that
now
we
at this
can,
point, Malcolm was a
solve our problems
segregationist
is
or
to unite
separationist or
together
whatever they're called.
among ourselves
When
on our
you
own
think
time,
that races should
clean ourselves
separate
up,
and do
rid
their own thing
ourselves of
in
the evils
different
that
parts
we've
of the,
become
let's say, a
addicted to
county
here
or a
in
state
this
or a city.
society.
This is the
We
black
try
part. This is
and
the white part. That's
solve
how
our
it is. We
problem
have black
ourselves.
businesses here, black schools,
I referred
black grocery
to
Yes.
stores.
popular belief
Then you have
that
your
the
white
Muslims
schools, your
preach
white
hatred for the white race. You don't
grocery
have to
stores,
describe
your
this.
white
No, I've
this,
never
that, and
heard
the
the
other.
Honorable Elijah Muhammad teach
He still was like that
hatred
until
for
1963.
anyone.
This is
He preaches
63.
hatred against evil.
But really, in
But
'64, they started.
drunkenness
He started
He went to
planting
Mecca, I
against
think. I think he went to
poverty
Mecca
and
in
against
in
having to
'64
beg
because he was
for
yes.
shot
things
early
that a man is
65,
supposed to
in
have.
February 65.
But I've never patronized by whites, and we have many businesses here in Chicago, and our customers are white as well as our own kind. And a white person can go into any of these places of business, and he'll have to admit that he is treated with more respect, and he finds more dignity there than he will find among the so-called Negroes who profess to be teaching love for everyone.
Twice you've referred to the Negroes, the so-called Negroes. You find some fault with this description,
Yes.
I gather.
Mr. Muhammad teaches us that Negro is a term that was applied to
slave
us
term.
during slavery by the slave master. And right today, it's a term that is used only to point out the descendants of slaves. It's never used for black people, period. Africans can come to this country. They aren't called Negroes. And if they are called Negroes, they resent it. So if Negro meant black, as we've been taught, it would be a term that would be applicable to or pliable to everyone. But he says that it is something that means a slave, or something it means something that has been left out of society, politically, economically, educationally, and otherwise.
You don't think of it as an anthropological term?
Definitely. It's not an anthropological term, it's a slave term. And it was a
Yeah.
term that was invented
He's
in America.
Educate
It was
you on
used
that,
by
dude.
slave makers, slave traders, and slave masters.
What is your real name?
Malcolm X.
Is that your legal name?
This guy's gonna.
Oh, yeah. You
Oh,
know
what
what
a jerk
Have
off
you been
he
to
is.
court to establish
O'Connor,
that?
huh?
I didn't have to go to.
That's
If
all
a
right.
Chinese person were to say his name was Patrick Murphy, you would look at him like he's insane, because Murphy is an Irish name, a European name, or the name that has a Caucasian or white background. And a yellow person, Chinese is a yellow man, and he has nothing to do or no connection whatsoever with the name Murphy. And if
It's
it
the
doesn't
same
look
thing.
proper
Same
for a
thing.
That's his
person who
argument.
is yellow,
Would you mind telling me what your father's last name was?
my father didn't know his last name. My father got his last name from his grandfather, and his grandfather got it from his grandfather, who got it from the slave master. The real names of our people were destroyed. during
Let's see what he's
slavery.
pointing
Was there
out.
any line,
Our real names were destroyed,
any
and
point in
our backgrounds
the
were tarnished.
genealogy of your family when you did have
He's totally like
the
goading.
last name?
Oh, yeah,
This is like the
he-
fourth
he's
time
just-
he's asking him.
He's just yanking on.
Was
Yeah.
taken from them when they
You
refused
mean
to.
you won't even tell me what your father's supposed last name was or gifted last name was?
I never acknowledge it whatsoever.
He doesn't acknowledge it.
Let me
Next
ask
question,
next
dude.
question, fat boy.
of a
Come
law
on.
amendment. First of all, Did you hold that meeting last Tuesday because it coincided with the general election, the primary election?
I think if you study the history of Mr. Muhammad's work and religious work in this country, we've had our convention on February the 26th every year for, I think, the past 33 years.
Well, now, while you don't care to
Doesn't he
discuss
shot and killed on
your
February
former
26th?
name or
So
the
February
name that the slave
26th,
master
okay.
gave to your antecedents.
Interesting.
Interesting, very
It is a
interesting.
matter of record that my name was Poole, Elijah Poole.
No, that's the name that his slave master gave to
This
his.
guy is,
Yeah, he's an
this
idiot.
guy.
He's not an idiot. He knows exactly what
That's
he's
not his
doing.
name.
Well,
Yeah.
his mother and father
He's even
thought
worse,
when
he's
they called
malicious.
him Elijah
Yeah.
Poole that was his name.
They didn't know any better.
Well, if they didn't know any better or not, they thought that was his name.
Yes, sir. But, sir,
But what I'm trying to find out is when did he cease to be
Why don't you just
Elijah
ask that
Poole
in the
and
beginning?
get to be Elijah Muhammad?
in 1931.
When did you just ask that
Ask
question?
that question instead of just kicking up dust.
The
And
true history
come on.
of our people.
He's trying to excite him,
Made aware
and he's trying
that's what
to.
he's trying to do.
that he was wearing an English Muhammad.
All right, now when did he become what he purports to be in your literature, the son of Allah,
I've never heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad referred to as the son
the
of
prophet
Allah.
of Allah?
I've never heard him referred to as the prophet of Allah.
What do you refer to him
Messenger
Yeah,
of Allah.
there's a huge difference, yeah.
And I appreciate the correction.
Yes,
No,
says
I'm
the
sure you
prophet
do
is somebody
appreciate
who
the
predicts
correction.
future.
I'm sure you're
Whereas
just
the
such a
messenger is someone
humble,
who carries a
scholarly
message
guy.
that has been given to him. Plane crashed in France. I pointed out to the crowd at this rally that this was an act of God showing his wrath or complete resentment over the brutal form of injustice that had been inflicted upon our poor unarmed brothers.
Were you
Sir,
saying that, or do
Billy
you believe
Graham, at that time, Dr. Billy Graham was in a crusade in Chicago, and the press, your papers here in this city, quoted Billy Graham of also saying that plane crash was an act of God. And if you take time to check
Billy Graham
the
said that.
newspapers,
He said it was an
I
act
think
of
that you'll
God.
find that this is correct. But no one thought that Billy Graham was so wrong
Yeah.
when he attributed the crash of this plane
The irony
to his
there, huh?
God. But when we say that it come from our God, then we're looked upon as being, outrageous.
I know, but you took the you.
I don't think
So he's twisting words now. He's twisting
And I
the
think that
narrative.
that's a trifle severe.
We did not think that it was a coincidence that 120 of the whites on this plane came from the state of Georgia, a state.
Mississippi, what is your organization's position of what happened in Mississippi in the past
Such
6
as
months?
what?
Such as the James Meredith
He
incident.
gives a little attitude.
Like
Like
what?
what?
Like what?
Elijah Muhammad
Be
wants justice
specific.
for every one of the 20 million so-called
He
Negroes.
just held them
Oh,
out.
yeah,
He's
you can
just
see
warming
that.
up. He's getting the
the wiggles in it.
stretches. He's stretching into it. He's getting the blood into the joint.
He's leaning in.
He's got that light mist on his forehead. He's just kind
That
of
handkerchief's coming up, so
he's a little
dabbing.
he's just getting ready.
Then every Negro in the state of Mississippi
And these guys are
who's
sucking
qualified
air.
has the same right to go to that
Does
university.
your organization encourage members to attempt to enter schools that have been known as all white in the past?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad doesn't discourage us
No,
from
no,
attending
he's saying
white schools.
Honorable
But he does
Elijah
say
Muhammad
that,
every
It
time
is better for us to go
when
to
he
our
refers to
schools.
Elijah Muhammad.
And after we have a thorough
After
knowledge of ourselves,
a while, he didn't even acknowledge his name.
He just said Elijah Muhammad.
He just said Elijah.
Yeah,
He didn't consider
he
him
withdrew
honorable.
the honor.
anyone's
Yeah.
school, and we'll still
You say there's no juvenile delinquency. What is the discipline that you
number one, excuse me,
practice?
sir. One of the first things that Mr. Muhammad teaches is you have to set an example if you want others to do right. And he teaches the grown-up Muslims to live a highly disciplined and a highly moral life of high morals. And by the parents displaying the highest of morals in front of the children at all times, automatically this sets a pattern or an example for the children. And in our schools, our children, the emphasis is placed upon the recognition of authority.
Yes.
And by the children recognizing
Yes.
authority and respecting authority, it's easy for anyone who is in authority to teach the child and discipline the child and make the child
Yes.
aware of the importance of living
Correct.
life in
Very
accord
true.
with the law, even after he grows up.
Anybody who's ever learned
Right.
Idaho,
You need discipline.
you have to have somebody
Yes.
above you that knows,
And
and you have to respect that.
Yeah, and when you do, then everything's easier, much easier.
Yo, you advance much better.
Illiterate, uneducated, and because of the impact that it had upon me in giving me a desire to reform myself and rehabilitate myself for the first time in my life, and also being able to see the effect that it had upon others, this is what made me accept it. And plus, prior to hearing what he teaches, I had no interest whatsoever in anything serious or any kind of educational pursuits. And I noticed that after being exposed to the religious teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, immediately it instilled within me such a high degree of racial pride and racial dignity that I wanted to be somebody, and I realized that I couldn't be anybody by begging the white man for what he had, but that I had to get out here and try and do something for myself or make something out of myself.
That takes a lot of personal responsibility to do that.
Yeah, absolutely it does.
Muslims
He was a bad drug addict too. He was, I think he was on heroin. I think he was an alcoholic.
The cocaine.
Cocaine, yes. Smoking weed, just always getting high. He was probably constantly high.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I recently read the Malcolm X article.
Oh yeah,
He's getting hit all
I
the
read
time.
about Taylor's, sure. I've read that about 2 times. Quite some time ago, though, about at least 20 years ago.
I read about 6 months ago. I read about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And his drug use was pretty recent.
Pretty rampant. I remember that. I was like, oh, you were a drug dealer. I didn't know that.
See, black people forget loaded. Hey, man, if there's no hope, there's dope.
How many
I mean,
Muslims do you say there are in the
but
the time in prison for him was a sobering time for Malcolm X. He had to detox. He had to get off that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Have accomplished for your people? What's your
Well,
attitude
in
toward
their
that?
own way, they have been doing their best to bring about freedom, justice.
now he's getting real fired
yeah,
up, but he's getting more.
Now he's throwing
NAACP
haymakers.
and
Yeah.
Urban League have both been critical of the Muslims.
The NAACP and Urban League have been maneuvered into criticizing us against their own will. Usually, the divide and conquer tactics have always been used by the oppressor to keep the oppressed oppressed.
Once when Elijah was quoted as having said that the Urban League and the NAACP sold out to the white man. Has he ever made that statement
To
you?
my knowledge, I don't think that he has said that they sold out to the white man.
Why would you say that?
Is that his feeling?
I think that's so cool. Sold out to the white
Has
man.
been in existence for 54 years. And they elect a new national president.
Malcolm, how do you yourself feel about the white man?
I believe that the white man has done a great injustice to the black man in this country. It's
true.
Having kidnapped our people and brought us here and down to the level that we're on today. And today, instead of approaching the factors that their original
Those guys
mistake
have
has
no
created,
clue on
instead
how
of
to.
approaching these
They're-
factors
they're-
objectively
now
and
they're kind of like throwing them
realistically,
softball
the greatest sin
questions
that they're doing
and
now
kind of
is
like
trying
they're a
to
little bit
forget
off
that
balance.
they
You could
never committed
tell
a crime,
because
they never
Malcolm's
did any
bringing
wrong.
so many good
And
points
when the
in
Honorable
such
Elijah
rapid
Muhammad
succession
points out the
that they're
injustice
like,
that our people are suffering,
how do you feel about this then?
make that sin
Yeah,
worse.
there's a sense of that. There's a
Yeah.
sense. And what is really grabbing this attention is that they're allowing him to talk.
Yes,
Cutting him off.
that's true too.
Not today. And he just cut him off.
And he just cut him off. But
So you must have a somewhat prejudiced.
see, now they're
We're just trying to
yeah,
see
yeah.
your prejudice against
See,
white
see,
people who
we're
killed your family,
prejudiced,
right?
Broad academic sort of. You used it voluntarily in describing.
You can tell he's lightening up a little bit.
Yeah, he is. He's okay. You're a smart guy.
Yeah, you're way smarter than I am. And
That's how humans interact.
Shut down 7 unarmed Negroes. But sir, the black
Now let me get back to another point that you made.
Are these guys actually liking Malcolm a little bit?
Yes,
it
of
kind of
course.
looks like this guy kind of likes him a little bit.
I immediately like Malcolm X.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a man of truth. He's a man of integrity. How can you not like a guy like that?
You don't mind my
right.
saying.
But those guys are attack dogs that have an agenda, that work for very powerful people, that tell them very specific things.
To do,
You
yes.
need to do this. You need to talk to him like this, and these are the words you need to use. And here are your questions. And
You don't have to go Muhammad. I mean, you don't have to be so.
Your cult. Or
yeah,
religion.
he does that intentionally.
Yeah, because
I'm going to say it the way I'm going to say it.
Say it.
So it's not Muhammad, it's Muhammad.
They're the white policemen as devils.
How about O'Connor?
He said,
O'Connor.
"Justice here for us
O'Connor.
black
I'm gonna
people,
call you
no
O'Connor.
future for us, no
O'Connor.
children in
Well, that's the way I like to
civilized
say it. Okay,
Okay.
O'Connor.
Doesn't that?
It is almost impossible to solve it. It's almost impossible to give justice to Negroes.
One brief thing further. I read also.
His eyes are fluttering. He's like, dude, I am. He's
Using
pumping
the fire. The fire's coming out of his eyes.
He's pumping it all pistons.
Oh, yeah. He's alive right now. Down to me. And here's my reaction to the whole thing. And I've known this about Malcolm forever, was his ability to take over a room without force.
Mhm.
So forceful words, forceful gestures, forceful language,
He would have passion, and he would have conviction
certainty.
and certainty.
Oh, yeah.
But it was never forced upon the person. It's like I was like, there's probably a minute or two I was just listening, and he just knows how to speak. He knows how to talk. He knows how to convey a thought. leaders like him.
Here's a leader. Here's what a leader is. Are you willing to die for what you're promoting?
And Malcolm X was willing to die, and
he did
that's
die.
well documented that he suspected that he was going to die even many years before he was killed.
Oh yeah.
So he knew he was a marked man, and he did it anyway.
So that means that's a true leader. That's a person you can go behind. Fact is Malcolm X died with $5. $5. So that means, and also his house was burnt down. The third house in his life that was burnt down. 2 by racists at the beginning of his life, and then the last one by Elijah Muhammad's goons. Terrible, terrible, terrible people. And so he knows what it's like to have that. Now, is any of the leaders today willing to die for the cause?
Ask yourself this: any leader that is in a position of politics or in a position of business, and maybe as a high-profile leader, would those people die for the product, good, or service, the idea that they're proposing to you? Yes or no?
And I would say no.
I'd say no. I'd say almost every single person I've ran into,
zero.
And it's zero. It's not just 1 or 2 or a few or maybe 5 or half a dozen or maybe a dozen. It's zero. Malcolm would have been, he was born in 1925, so Malcolm X would have been 98 years old.
Yes, right.
He would have just turned 98 years old. Is it possible that he would have lived? Yeah, 98. There's 90-year-old people. But he knew that he wasn't going to live much past about 40.
And he wouldn't like any of this stuff.
He knew that he was going to die. And he would be very critical of what's happening politically, the political landscape of just America in general. And he would have been a tremendous help. But he was, 39? No, he was going to be 40 that year. He was born 25. He was killed in 65.
Yeah, he was 39 when he died.
39. Malcolm X. We will need Malcolm X now more than ever.
More than ever. More than ever. I mean, all the racial divides and all this stuff. Heck, if I was a black guy, I'd be really pissed off. I mean, heck, as a white guy, I'm a little bit more pissy than usual. But if I was a black dude back then, I would not have any of it. I wouldn't have none of it. Mike, that's Pete.
I'm Pete. And we'll catch you later.